Who in their right mind would have ever thought this was possible? Disneyland is still closed. And it's been closed for a solid 9 months now. People have been conceived and born into this world with no Disneyland. True, Disney has opened up part of California Adventure, Buena Vista Street over there, for shopping and until recently some dining as well, but my heart will always belong to the original. Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom, Disneyland. I have mostly been staying away and trying not to think about it because it's hard to look at the happiest place on earth closed to the public. But even though we can't stroll down Main Street at the moment or take a cruise through the jungle or bobsled down the Matterhorn, and even though I've mostly tried to keep away, it hasn't stopped me from thinking about Disneyland. In fact, one of my favorite things to do during these periodic California lockdowns has been to travel to Disneyland virtually through my archive of historical photos and film. And since I haven't been able to enjoy Disneyland in the present, I've been enjoying Disneyland in the past. One of the things about Disneyland history that I have always been absolutely fascinated with are the attractions that are no longer with us. Things like the flying saucers or the RC planes, the old Main Street vehicles that have disappeared, and so many others. Many of them I never had a chance to experience because they were gone long before my time, but others, like the People Mover for example, or the old rockets, I spent quite a bit of time enjoying. And it's one of these forgotten, lost attractions that I actually did get to spend a little bit of time with before it disappeared that I've been focused on lately. One of Disneyland's very earliest attractions, flying their way around the rivers of America. I'm talking about the Keelboats, the Mike Fink Keelboats. In late 1954 and early 1955, Disney's Davy Crocket miniseries became a worldwide television sensation. So of course, the original Frontierland had a heavy Davy Crocket emphasis. Eager fans couldn't get enough Davy Crocket, so there was just one problem. At the end of the show, Davy is killed off at the Alamo! Not to worry though, Disney quickly went to work in 1955 filming a prequel called Davy Crocket and the River Pirates, where the King of the Wild Frontier faces off against the King of the River, Mike Fink, in a keelboat race down the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. After the filming, the boats, Mike Fink's Gullywumper and Davy Crockett's Bertha Mae, soon began circling the rivers of America at Disneyland. It was the perfect tie-in! How's that for some IP at the parks, huh? According to well-established legend, for the first few years, park guests rode on the actual prop boats, slightly modified, that were used in the filming. Guests from around the world could now relive the adventures of the King of the Wild Frontier on board the Mike Fink Keelboats, as they were known. And although the boats themselves were supposedly swapped out for bigger models eventually, with the Gullywumper noticeably gaining a third window, they continued to run alongside the Indian War canoes, the Mark Twain and Columbia, and of course, the rafts to Tom Sawyer's Island. It's always hard to tell from photos, but personally, I've never noticed any size difference between the Bertha Mae of the 1950s and the Bertha Mae of later years. The Gullywumper was most definitely upgraded. First, when it came to the park, it's noticeably taller than it appeared on screen, and of course, by the turn of the century, it somehow grew that extra window, as well as gaining a little length, too. But through it all, if it was indeed changed, Davy Crockett's Bertha Mae kept her classic shape, racing Mike Fink around the rivers of America to the delight of onlookers and passengers alike. Now, even if Disneyland were open, sadly, we still couldn't ride on the Mike Fink Keelboats. As beloved as they were, there were only ever 2 of these keelboats, and they didn't fit all that many passengers. They were often docked unused along the rivers of America, except during peak traffic, and by the end of 1994, they seemed to have closed down for good. In 1996, though, the keelboats reappeared for one more round until just over a year later in 97, when a whole boatload of guests were gullywumped right into the rivers of America when Mike Fink's beloved ship tipped over, and the keelboats sadly never returned to operation in Disneyland again, although they lived on just a little bit longer at other Disney parks. So, although I'd love to climb on board an old-time keelboat, sadly, That is no longer possible. But the reason I came down here today, and the reason I've been on such a deep keelboat dive lately, is because even though Disneyland is closed and the keelboats have long since left the rivers of America, at least one of those fantastic ride vehicles has survived. In fact, none other than Davy Crockett's keelboat, the Bertha Mae. And if everything goes according to plan, tomorrow morning, after 23 years, I'm gonna get to see it again in person for myself. So as much as it pains me to leave, it's time to go home, sleep well, and fingers crossed, encounter some Disneyland history. Okay, so if everything goes according to plan today, we should get to see one of the original Disneyland keelboats, the Bertha Mae. But even as of this moment, as of this morning, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be allowed to film it. So we're really winging it here. But I'm gonna sip my coffee and here's hoping. Ugh, forgot I really don't like coffee that much. All right, now the place we're heading to is a little ways away, but it's legendary in and of itself. Legendary in its own right. It's none other than the world famous Garner Holt Productions, a place responsible for building some of the finest animatronics in theme parks the world over. This is my first time in the new Garner Holt facility, which is 10 times bigger than the old one, and I'm very paranoid about where I place the camera because of course they're always working on secret and future projects for theme parks around the world, and so I'm going to be very careful here. You know, a little worried, a little nervous, but holy cow, this is actually happening. Take a look at that. I am blown away right now, and all I can say is, would you look at the size of that boat? This thing is gargantuan. These were the second boats, so some mysteries have been cleared up for me here. All you ever read online is that they replaced the original boats in the 50s, supposedly with fiberglass ones, but these were made sometime in the very early 1970s, and they are indeed fiberglass. This is incredible. It's so hard to get a sense of scale. Seeing it next to this ladder might give you some idea. Seeing it next to Dumbo might give you some idea. This thing is huge. Even though being here, I've now confirmed that they did in fact build these bigger boats at the same time that they built the Keelboats for the opening of Magic Kingdom, so in the early 70s. Going back and looking at the boats in the 50s and 60s, they don't look all that different size-wise, honestly. Seems to be basically the same amount of seating, roughly the same sort of scale. I'm guessing these new fiberglass ones were theoretically a little more seaworthy, a little more long-lasting, but size-wise they seem pretty much the same, which makes it even crazier how big this thing looks out of the water compared to how small it looked on the rivers of America, you know, 30, 40, 50 feet away. All right, I am now on top of the ladder, which is very scary, and I have a volunteer down here to show you, next to a human being, just how big that boat is. That is one big Bertha. Okay, the next step is we're moving the ladder back towards the Bertha Mae, and I wasn't sure if this was possible, but I think after 23 plus years, we're gonna get to climb back aboard a Disneyland keelboat. I am freaking out a little bit because I half expected that, you know, we wouldn't get to film or we wouldn't get to see it today. Something would go wrong. But also because I never expected to get to climb aboard. And also because I really don't like ladders. So we've got to do this. We've got to take one for the team. I just did my Christmas lights at the house on like maybe a 5-foot ladder. And I almost cried. Don't tell anyone, guys. It's a little embarrassing. Permission to come aboard, Captain. Oh my gosh, I did it. I'm on the keelboat. This is incredible. This is gonna take me a second. First thoughts? Boy, is this high up. This is a little bit scary. Yeah. Wow. This is incredible. Standing in the bow of Davy Crockett's keelboat, the Bertha Mae. Guests normally did not stand here on the front of the boat. That would have been forbidden. Only loading straight inside over the very narrow amount of deck alongside these windows. Unbelievable. Now the owner who isn't Garner Holt and who I don't think wants to be on camera, really wants me to get on top of here, which is really going to be terrifying. But first, I have got to climb inside. Now, as big as this boat is, and we've now proven, now that we've seen the actual fiberglass hull, that this is in fact a bigger, more expanded Bertha Mae. That was definitely a watch your head type of loading situation. This is unbelievable. For at least 25 years, this boat took guests around the rivers of America. And the weird thing is, even with this mask on, which I guess I can actually take off for a second now that I'm way up high away from everyone, even with the mask on, I could smell the Disneyland smell. I swear, even though it's still undergoing restoration, so it's a little dusty and stuff in here, I can smell the rivers. This is crazy. I am tripping out. Look at that. All the original paint is in here. I mean, it is pretty intact from what I heard when they were selling this at the That's From Disneyland auction. You guys might remember that one. A big auction of tons of stuff from the parks. The Sea Serpent was there, some ride vehicles. Well, this wasn't in the actual exhibit that they did because it was just too big to fit, but it was in that auction, and from what I was told around that time, it was really falling apart and totally rotting away. But I am very happy to report that is absolutely not the case. This thing is in like perfect shape, it looks to me. I mean, I'm no sailor, but it seems awfully seaworthy. I can't believe how good the paint looks. And boy, being this close to it, like even at the park when you would ride in it, you'd be getting in and out pretty quickly. You wouldn't have time to notice all these little hand-painted details on here. Still to this day, Disneyland employs a lot of hand sign painters who do a lot of crazy detailed work. Anyway, at the time of that big Van Eaton auction, they did offer me a chance before the new owner took possession to come and film this, but I think I had to go to Disneyland Paris or I had to be in Walt Disney World. I know I was out of town and I missed it, and I always thought, man, I missed my one chance. Luckily, the new owner has decided to display the Bertha Mae here inside of Garner Holt with a whole bunch of other stuff that will eventually be part of a small educational section with some theme park history, because Garner Holt's new facility is all set up to bring in lots of local school kids and field trips. It's basically the story, if you don't know much about Garner Holt, of a local Redlands kid who started doing, you know, haunted houses and different stuff, and then worked his way up to the pinnacle of the theme park industry, building animatronics now all over the world. One of the things I always found the most inspiring about Garner is that he has kept his shop in his hometown here, San Bernardino, Redlands, and has spent a lot of time, money, and energy on inviting in local kids to come for field trips and different stuff and do all these different education programs, getting them interested in the manufacturing and programming and animatronics. This is just so cool. Wow, look at this. It's unbelievable. All the original wiring, the original light fixtures are still in here. Look at this. They still have the original rope to chain people in. It's not as stretchy as it used to be. That is a Disneyland rope. Wow, smells just like Mickey Mouse. Tastes like Goofy though. So strange. Here you got some panels off. It's a little behind the scenes look you would never get at the parks. You could definitely see some space between the hole there, and judging by the amount of light going in there, I guess, yeah, there's probably a little restoration work to do, but this is incredible. The only thing I noticed was missing were some of the pictures in here of Davy Crocket and stuff, but I am told those are safely stored away in a different spot, so they do still exist. Guys, this is nuts. But the craziest part of the whole Bertha Mae Keelboat story is that this boat originally left the park after the tipping over of the Gully Wumper. You guys remember when everybody got Mike Finked into the river? This boat was auctioned off by Disney on eBay. Nobody can quite remember an exact figure off the top of their heads, but they estimate somewhere around, you know, $16,000 or something like that. Basically, somebody added this sweet boat to their navy for less than the price of a Hyundai. Dude, this is incredible. Look at this giant tiller over here in the back that you can actually turn. So cast members actually did manually operate the Keelboat. The motor is supposedly right under here. This is wood and looks a little shaky, so I'm not going to stand on it. But it all seems pretty intact. Look at this. You have the mooring rope. Is that what you call it? Throw it on the dock. The old cleats are here. This is interesting. I wonder what that jack is for. Is that for a microphone? Dude, and then check this out. Look at that. It's the throttle. These controls don't look very complex. Look at that. You got a little electrical outlet. Throttle here, obviously, and then I guess that's the starter, maybe. This is unbelievable. Moving around on the deck, I can definitely tell you there are some parts that clearly do need a bit of restoration. There is a little bit of dry rot here, and some of these panels here need to be strengthened before a lot of people could walk on the boat. But overall, the vast bulk of the ship feels very sturdy, very intact. I'm still a little weirded out standing up here because it is a boat, and I do feel like if I lean too far, it just might tip over, you know. Add to that my ever-present fear of heights, and yeah, it does feel slightly uncomfortable up here, but it's about to get a little bit worse because I'm heading to the upper deck. Now this is the thing. You guys will see just how narrow, oh boy, this top seating area really is on top of the Keelboats. I mean, there's my foot right there. And look how close those two benches are. It is so long and so narrow. Now I really feel like if I shift my weight, this thing could tip right over. And remember, this is the upgraded, improved version of the Keelboat. Imagine being in the earlier one that was a little bit narrower. Yikes! And this is how you know you're dealing with an old school ride vehicle. Even if they had decided to keep the Keelboats, I doubt they'd be using this one still. Because notice just how low down these sides are. I was gonna say guardrails, but these rails wouldn't guard anybody from falling down at all. And as the owner just pointed out to me when I mentioned how I was surprised that more people didn't fall off the Keelboat over the years, he pointed out, notice that before you'd hit the water, you would hit the deck down there. Oh yeah, man. This is incredible. Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale. A tale of a fateful trip. No, wait, that was the gully wumper that tipped over. Whew, the Bertha Mae. The Bertha Mae is still safe. Okay, up here it's really hitting me just exactly where we're standing. It's hitting home that this is one of the boats that was actually in the rivers of America. That is so cool. Now you may have noticed that there's a bunch of stuff kind of under my feet here. A bunch of rope and some plastic covering some stuff up here, which are some pieces that were a little more exposed to the elements. What you have here are the sections of the original mast that hung up over the gully wumper that had the flag on it and all that stuff. It is still intact, still here on board the boat, but is actually so tall that it would poke through the roof if fully assembled. And these ceilings are at least 30 foot high, so this boat is more than halfway up. We're already up above 15 feet. This thing is tall. Dude, look how narrow. I mean, sitting here, my knee is almost touching the other seat. I guess it's perfect for putting your feet up, but I still feel like I have to lean in or the boat's gonna flip over. Wow, this is amazing. I don't know how much longer I can stay up here with the whole dizziness thing, but it's such a rare opportunity, but at the same time I don't want to get down. Anyway, after that original auction where they picked up the boat for basically a song, $16,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's when the real expense kicked in, because it's estimated that between that original auction and when this thing was purchased in the Van Eaton auction, it cost somewhere close to the neighborhood of $200,000 for storage. I mean, it seems easy, right? Buy a nice 30, 40-foot boat. I mean, they never looked that big in the rivers of America, but when you see it up out of the water like this, you realize, oh heck, we're not gonna need a bigger boat. This boat is big enough. You would need 2 standard garages, end to end, to fit this bad boy. I think the original owner's original plan was to sort of build a pond and have it in a pond in the backyard. But in addition to the storage costs, imagine the cost of restoring something like this and making it waterproof again. A little prohibitive. All right, I think it's about time to get down. I was really hoping that I would get a splinter though, because then it'd be like a free souvenir. I would absorb it into my blood, and then the Bertha Mae would be a part of me forever. Okay, no, that's just weird. Never mind, guys. All right, I gotta get down now. Which is just slightly uncomfortable still. Oh boy, you hear that crackling noise? That can't be good. Oh, whew. Safely back on the old wooden deck. Oh good, I think it was just this old sort of tar paper grip here. Gosh, this is unbelievable. So this is where all those swarthy cast members would stand, controlling the throttle, steering with the right hand, I guess throttling with the left. And I guess they would have had these little peepholes here in the back of the Bertha Mae to keep an eye on what all those rowdy kids were doing. Totally unbelievable. Easy to see all the passengers through the holes, through the windows, up here on the top. But what strikes me is if you've got your right hand here and then your left hand on the throttle, you really only get this kind of a view of the river. Man, these guys were really sort of flying blind. I have a friend who's here actually, who swears that they remember being on a Tom Sawyer Island raft and one of these keelboats ramming right into it back in the day. A little river accident, if you will. It sounds far-fetched until you stand back there where the pilot of the ship would be. You realize it's totally believable. Guy probably didn't see the raft at all. Wow, this is incredible. Just think of the hundreds, the thousands maybe, of kids and large kids alike who rode on Davy Crockett's ship here. This is, of course, the 1970s one, after all. So maybe Davy Crocket wasn't quite as popular as he had been a decade previously. But if you think about it, all the little kids in the 50s that went Crocket crazy were coming back by this time as adults, probably with their own kids, and sharing that most special of Disney moments where they're sharing their favorite things and their special memories with their own kids and passing it on. This is unbelievable. I feel so incredibly fortunate to be able to come see this, to stand here. I mean, just look at that. I think anybody would notice if one pulley went missing. Just one. This is amazing. All right, one last time into the cabin. And then I think we're gonna have to let the fine folks at Garner Holt Productions get back to doing all that good work that they do here. All right, there's something I always wanted to do in the Keelboats. It was never allowed. I always wanted to climb over the... Oh, it's a little dirtier than I thought it was going to be. You can never get away with that in here. Not just because they were watching, but because, you know, it's a boat. They'd feel it if you did that. Woohoo! I finally did it. I broke the rule. I didn't remain seated. And look at this. I got my hand, arm, and leg outside of the window. Whew. All right. Bucket list items achieved. Oh man, now I'm as dusty as Mike Fink. That's all right. I'm gonna breathe this in later. I'm gonna shake all this dust into a tumbler and drink it. It's Disney dust. Anyway, there you have it, guys. The inside of the legendary Disneyland Keelboat, the Bertha Mae. I still can't believe that we're here. I gotta watch my head. This is a new hat, new 3D printed hat, right? Look at that embroidery. Now they are still planning some more restoration work, a little cleanup work on the old big Bertha here. In fact, I believe it's already been cleaned up quite a bit, not to mention the cleaning I just did. Look at all this dust I got. And thanks to the generosity of its current owner, not only did we get to see and experience the Bertha Mae today, but hopefully it'll be here at Garner Holt for a long, long time, being visited by industry insiders, theme park enthusiasts, and school children alike. I don't know that it'll ever become normal to let people climb around on it, though. And that is why I feel extremely fortunate to be up here. I know I've said that 1,000 times, but it's true. That is the main thought in my head is, whoa. And I just have one more question, which is, what do you suppose this was for? Look at that over there. You see that? I get this. There's a throttle over here, but what about that in that little slot? Couldn't be a trash can, right? Weird. Wow, dude, it feels so cool to move that tiller. Also a little scary. And I mean, even just seeing things like this, the old rope to close the little stairway here, it's like so cool. If someone had just showed me this, I would have been excited and wanted to make a video. But to climb around on this bad boy all day, and yes, I did actually get a splinter finally. Wow, it's just mind-blowing. Hey, wait a minute. What in the heck is this? Well, there's your problem right there. That's why it's not running. Look at this old battery. You gotta put in new ones. Oh yeah, you pop in one of those new Duracells, you'll be ready to go. See, if Disney had only known that was the problem, they never would have auctioned it off. All right. Goodbye, Bertha Mae. It's been a pleasure. Oh, Daisy, okay. Whew. Okay, I did it. I made it off the Bertha Mae alive. Unbelievable. Check this out, you can see the propeller down here. I think it's up on some stuff just so they can wheel it around the floor. And look at that old tag. 12,800 pounds without wood base, it says. That is one big Bertha. That's almost as heavy as everybody's mother-in-law. Gosh, and look at all this hand-painted detail on that rudder back there. Tiller? Rudder? Tiller? What's the difference anyway? I'm not sure. All right, guys, and now comes the worst part, because now it's time to say goodbye to Davy Crockett's boat. We can't ride it inside, 'cause it doesn't float. Drink it in, guys. One last look. And I believe we've done it. Oh, incidentally, I'm supposed to, try to avoid some of the other top secret stuff here. But this, in front of me, I couldn't help myself. This is the door from the Chicken of the Sea pirate ship. Just the fact that that still exists anywhere at all is awesome. And I think I just accidentally touched it. Still smells like tuna. Okay, that is one of those things that I do. And then immediately, before I'm even back in the car, I'm like, I can't even believe that just happened. Unbelievable, unreal. You would never know in this sort of standard looking industrial park that a building like this could contain such wonderful toys. Oh, all right, I finally showered and I think I've washed most of the old Bertha Mae dust off of me except for that splinter. Can't wait for that to be absorbed. But I really had no idea what to expect today, but I gotta tell you, coming in contact with Disneyland again, even in this strange sort of roundabout way, felt really good. Hopefully the situation in the world will be under control soon, vaccines and whatnot, and we'll be able to get back to Walt Disney's original Magic Kingdom and experience all the wonderful things that are still there. But I'll always have that special place in my heart for Disneyland history, even the Disneyland history I did not experience firsthand. And so, of course, we might have to do a little more time traveling again in the future. All right, my friends, my new hat got a little dirty, but that's okay. OxyClean, pro tip for the hats, OxyClean. There's so much other stuff going on, which I will talk to you about very soon, because for one thing, not only do we have these, but there's a new record out. Somebody put out a new record. I think for now, though, we've done our duty. Go home and sleep well. There be rafts ahead! Get out of the way, Mark Twain! Keelboat coming through! I Mike Fink, king of the river. Wait, Mike Fink didn't talk like that. By the way, vis-a-vis in regard to RE Attention, the store thing I was talking about, that online store thing, the new t-shirts are here. They have finally arrived, so they're going to be shipping out a little earlier than we expected. They are in hand now, along with other pre-orders going on. I really felt like there was something else I was supposed to say, something else I was supposed to do, but my head is full of Keelboats and Davy Crocket. Oh, that is, by the way, streaming on Disney+. So if you've never actually gone back and watched the old Davy Crocket episodes, yes, they were made in the 1950s. Are they completely politically correct these days? No, but they do exist there on Disney+, including Davy Crocket and the River Pirates, which is the 2 TV episodes mashed together, released in color as a film in 1956, which feature the Gully Whumper and the Bertha Mae. Not the one we climbed on, obviously, but, you know, what's the difference? It's still an official Disneyland Bertha Mae. I'm going to go ahead and say it still counts as stepping on board Davy Crockett's ship. And now, my friends, as this is over, California is about to lock down again. There's a little delay sometimes between me and you, and we'll have to see what in the world we're going to do. We're going to have to hunker down and wait. I don't know. What a crazy up and down here, but more adventures are ahead either way, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that I'd love to tell you about. But like I say, you're going to have to wait till next time. I love you all! See you later. By the way, I also have to show you the craziest coffee mug in the entire world. But, unfortunately, right now, we're out of time. I was trying to find a way to nap on here, but it's a little uncomfortable. Think Davy Crocket ever did this?